Do you know the difference between a tornado and a scam in the South? None. Either way, someone loses a trailer. Robin Williams. I studied forensic science and have a PhD in molecular biology. Early in my career, I worked in an FBI laboratory and then worked for a couple of years as a pathologist at a large hospital. However, I got tired of working for the master, so when I turned 40, I opened my own company specializing in DNA analysis. RHT Labs, my full name is Robert Henry Thomas, provides court-admissible DNA testing to government agencies, businesses, attorneys, and individuals. I got my love for science from my mom and my business acumen from my dad. I'm not crazy rich, but I opened 3 labs in a big city in the Midwest and am doing well. My wife, Melissa, Liz for short, was my college sweetheart. We met in the middle of our second year, and within a few weeks we were together. She studied biology and secondary education. We got married 6 months after graduation, during the holidays at the end of my first semester of graduate school. She taught at a local high school. We were madly in love with each other, and everything started out great. 4 years into our marriage, Tracy Lynn arrived. 2 years later, she was joined by Robert Henry Thomas Roman II, or Hank as we called him. Liz loved being a mom, but she also continued to teach as an aide in our school district. She eventually returned to the classroom full-time when Tracy was in 3rd grade and Hank was in 1st grade. My children were 12 and 10 years old when I became a private entrepreneur. The first year or so was hard. I worked long hours and cycled through staff until I found the right team of people who liked hard work and good pay and benefits. They quickly realized that they were working for an owner who was harder on himself than anyone else. Now, at 47, marriage, children, work, and our lake cottage occupy a large part of my world. We bought our lake house about 10 years ago. It was in quite a state of disrepair, so we bought it at a bargain price and were willing to work together to get it up and running. When school ended for the summer, Liz and the kids spent 85% of their time there. I shortened my work week to 4 days in June, July, and August to enjoy long weekends with our loving team. Over the years, our marriage has had its ups and downs. It's been mostly ups, but like any other couple, we fight from time to time. We can both be stubborn, but we rarely stay mad at each other for more than a couple of hours. None of us like to be at odds with each other, so we are quick to admit where we were wrong and make amends. No marriage is perfect, but I wouldn't trade mine for anything in the world. Until recently. Tracy was a sophomore in college, which meant that Hank would also be starting school in the fall. We were all looking forward to the summer house by the lake because it was clear that our foursome stay would not last long. Tracy had a boyfriend, and although neither Liz nor I thought he was the one, we knew it probably wouldn't be more than a few years before she brought home that special someone we'd meet. We would have loved to expand our family when that happened, but we also enjoyed the time we still had with our small, close-knit team. It was late spring and Liz had spent the last 2 weekends at the lake getting the house ready for opening. This has been her ritual since we took ownership of this house. She'll have time to herself, which means the cottage will look just the way she likes it, and she'll still have a couple of evenings to sit and read and drink a little wine without interference from her husband or children. At home, the 3 of us created our own traditions, which included hosting an early-season baseball game in St. Louis and Chicago. Each of the last Sunday evenings, when Liz returned from what she called her prep weekend, she seemed a little out of sorts. I couldn't figure out what it was exactly, but my wife was clearly not in a good mood. On the second Sunday, when she returned in the same mood, I asked her if she was all right. She snapped at me, which she rarely does, and left the room in irritation. What? I thought about it and stayed away from her for the next couple of hours. Before going to bed, she apologized for her behavior. Sorry, Henry. I shouldn't have been harsh with you earlier. Please forgive my rude behavior. Of course, Liz, I replied. I'm sorry if I somehow angered you. I was just worried that you weren't quite yourself. I'm fine, Henry, she answered without looking at me. I guess I'm just a little tired from all this work at the lake. Okay, sweetie, how about some back scratching? That would be perfect, she purred. Liz loves to have her back scratched. Usually, when she returns home from the lake, she is in a good mood. Tonight, when I started to initiate her, she didn't even roll over. She just took a deep breath and said, "Thanks for the scratch, baby, but not today, okay?" I wasn't shocked. I was rejected so many times, like any normal husband. But given our recent schedule, it's been over a week now, which surprised me. Unfortunately, I found out too soon what was going on. If you live in the Midwest, you are at risk of tornadoes. Like earthquakes in California or hurricanes on the East Coast, people in our part of the country are well aware of tornadoes and what they can do. In spring, it is never a question of if, but always a question of when and where. This year, it's our turn. A Class 3 tornado has wind speeds of up to 250 kilometers per hour, while a Class 5 tornado can reach speeds of over 300 kilometers per hour. On Monday evening, after Liz returned from her second cleanup trip, there was a Class 3 tornado within a kilometer of our house. I immediately called our lake neighbors Eric and Bev Parson. Their house was about 100 meters from us. They were retired and lived on the lake all year round. Eric answered after the second ring. "Henry, a terrible storm just hit here." "Are you and Bev okay, Eric? Is there anything I can do for you?" "We're fine, Henry. Thanks for asking. There is no serious damage nearby. I took a quick look around your house and found a couple of broken windows, a lot of branches and other crap scattered around the area, but nothing major. The rain has stopped, so in the morning I will board up your windows. There's no need for you to rush here tonight." "Thank you, Eric. I'm glad you're okay. I'll arrive first thing in the morning. I'll bring you a dozen Krispy Kreme donuts as a token of my gratitude. Save your money, Henry. Bev will just find the damn products and make me throw them away. She can smell from a kilometer away that food she considers unhealthy is simply intolerable. Sometimes it drives me crazy. Well, maybe I'll just bring a couple and leave them at my house. I can call when I arrive if I need help." "Well, it might work, Henry. Good night, and see you in the morning." I informed the office that I would be gone for a couple of days. In truth, they probably did more without me. My assistant Shelby told me she wasn't sure how they would cope without me, but they would try. Liz offered to leave and help me, but once I explained that we had avoided most of the serious damage, she decided to stay home and work. We also knew that leaving an 18-year-old high school student alone for a couple of days would be an accident if he was looking for a place where this could happen. I headed out to the lake and spent the next couple of days assembling and preparing 3 new windows for installation. Eric came and helped me with some things, and I did the same for him. If someone has eaten donuts, then I am silent. It was Wednesday afternoon, and all major cleaning work had been completed. Liz placed the trash can next to the mailbox before leaving on Sunday because her trip to the lake was scheduled for Tuesday. Due to the thunderstorm, all its contents were still scattered around the yard. The trash can was blown into the street. Having rolled it into place, I began the finishing work filling it with what had scattered across the lawn. I was almost done when I noticed what looked like a Ziploc bag at the far end of our yard. Upon closer inspection, it was indeed a clear plastic bag. There was nothing strange about it, but its contents appeared to be discarded clothing. I picked it up and saw what looked like one of Liz's swimsuits. When I opened it, a mixture of smells hit my nostrils. Human sweat and other body secretions were tightly sealed for at least 3 days. Don't forget, I'm doing DNA analysis. I recognized something familiar in the aroma from working with fragrances in our laboratories. I lifted my blouse. It was missing 4 out of 6 buttons. Both swimsuits and panties were stained with dried biological samples. I felt my lunch crawling back down my throat, even though I tried my best to swallow it. I lost. How could this happen? Liz and I hadn't been to the lake together since Thanksgiving weekend, and as I recall, it was a big family weekend, so sex wasn't on the menu. I knew enough to understand that the contents of the package had not been stored for more than a few days. An almost 25-year marriage, built on love and commitment, suddenly shook at its very foundation. I took my newly acquired things to the veranda, sat down, and forced myself to think. Apparently, Liz knew I wouldn't show up at the lake until Tuesday morning when the trash collector came. There was no need to hide anything, since everything would have disappeared long before my first spring visit. But who? Our house was far enough from Eric's that we could come and go without being noticed. I also remembered how it seemed to me that Liz was not herself when she returned from both weekends. Was it because she was returning home after being with him? How long has she been cheating on me? Was it someone who lived here, or did they just meet here? Someone she worked with? Neighbor? Was he clean? Could I have a disease? I felt dizzy and had difficulty breathing. I tried to maintain my composure, but it was not easy. I was in no condition to go home. An hour later, I had an instant solution. I called Liz to tell her I had something else to do here, and I'd already had a few beers. It would be better if I stayed overnight and returned to the city early in the morning. The lake house was only an hour away, so I could get up at 6 and be in the office by my usual 8 in the morning. I'm glad there wasn't too much damage, Liz said when I told her about my plan. I just wanted you to come home tonight. I wanted to make up for my lack of enthusiasm on Sunday. Sorry, Liz, but I'll see you tomorrow. Bye, honey. I love you. Good night, Liz. I couldn't bring myself to tell her that I loved her. I had a glass or two of bourbon and ended up falling into a restless sleep until 5 a.m. On the way home, I made a few decisions and also made a few phone calls. I would have done the DNA testing myself, so I needed to go straight to the lab and start it before anyone else arrived. Second, I called my lawyer, Tom Kincaid, and briefed him on the matter. Finally, I called a friend I worked with in the FBI, who also worked in the private sector, and told him what I needed. By the end of the day, I had completed 2 out of 3 tasks. Tom and I met for lunch for a couple of hours. The bad news is that no matter what, she will get 50% of the property in the divorce. Even if the children grow up and perhaps decide to live with me, she will be fine financially. How perverted our system is, I thought. Betray your vows to the people you claim to love and receive financial rewards. Second, my friend managed to pull some strings and install state-of-the-art, undetectable video surveillance equipment at his lake house. Not that it would help much in the divorce, but I needed proof of her infidelity. There was no way I was going to let her play the victim in front of our friends and family. If necessary, I would actively use social media. Liz would probably get back on her feet financially, but she wouldn't leave the marriage without damaging her reputation. My third project was the DNA identification process. Obviously, Liz's results were easy to determine, but the search for the unknown person took longer. If you're lucky, not earlier than tomorrow at the end of work. I came home, hugged the kids, and kissed Liz on the cheek. Everyone was interested in my last 24 hours. I was taking pictures with my phone, so everyone gathered around and looked over my shoulder while I told the story. Despite her duplicity, it was clear that Liz cared about our second home. She had as many wonderful memories as the rest of us, and we were together for a long time. I continued to speak in an even voice, trying to maintain my composure. She stood so close, looking at my phone, that her scent filled my nostrils. This usually started to excite me sooner or later. Tonight her scent made me sad. I specifically took pictures of the trash scattered around the yard. Before returning, I edited the photo and made the Ziploc bag a little bigger in the frame. Despite my pain, I decided that a little brainstorming wouldn't hurt. I mean, look at all this garbage. You wouldn't believe how much stuff I had to gather and pack, I said, lingering a second or two longer at the photo. I felt Liz tense for a moment. Later that night, as we climbed into bed, Liz reached out to me. I think she felt me tense as she hugged me and moved closer to me. Are you okay, Henry? What happened, dear? Usually I turned around and we talked almost nose to nose. Tonight I just turned away from her. I'm just tired, I lied. All this work at the lake house. Then last night I drank too much. Then early morning and a long day. Thanks for taking care of all this, Henry. I know it was hard. I probably should have gone with you and helped. It's okay, Liz, but I really think you should go there next week after you finish school on Monday and make sure the windows were put in correctly and everything is up to your standards. I think we would all be relieved to know that you are here and have our family's best interests at heart. Of course, Henry, I thought about that too. I'll come see you after school. Our last day of work will be a half day, so I might be able to be back by Tuesday evening. Take your time, Liz. I just want to make sure everything is the way you like it. You are the most important thing to me. If she caught a few hints that I expressed, she didn't show it. Her hand slid lower down my torso. How about I help you feel better, my loving husband? Now I have to stop for a moment and say with relative certainty that I have never turned down sex with Liz in my life. Never. For me, she has always been the most beautiful woman in the world. Her looks, her intelligence, her personality, it was all amazing, and if I could breathe, I would be ready for sexual pleasures. I had a hard time holding back my tears this evening. Sorry, Liz, but I'm completely exhausted. I heard a quiet sigh escape her lips. Oh, of course, Henry. You need to get a good night's sleep. I love you. And you too, I replied, omitting the word love and hoping that it would go unnoticed. Lying in the dark, I realized that my marriage was most likely over. I couldn't just give up my love for Liz, but I would never trust her again. She obviously found something missing in our relationship and filled it with another man. She lied to me and betrayed our family. She never left the house again unless I wondered where she was going or who she was meeting. The thought of her being at the lake house 4 days a week without me was completely unbearable. Whoever he was at our lake house with my wife, probably in our marital bed where they slept. No, I could not tolerate such disrespect. At 4:30 a.m., I stopped tossing and turning. Liz was fast asleep when I showered, got dressed, and headed to the office. Unusual for a Saturday, but not unheard of. She called me around 7 a.m. I let the call go to voicemail, something I rarely do. She wrote, "I hope you got some sleep and are getting better. I love you. I didn't answer for an hour. Sorry, I was working on an important order at the last minute. I think I'll see you in the evening. Still tired." I added a heart emoji. It was the best I could do under the circumstances. Even though it was Saturday, I called Tom at 9 and asked him to start filing the divorce papers. In our state, adultery is considered a reason for divorce, although in court it would not matter in the slightest. Still, I had no intention of getting into irreconcilable differences. I told him to get everything ready for next week. By 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I had the name Kenneth Glenn Lester. The name seemed familiar to me, but I couldn't remember where it came from. The information obtained from a Google search did the trick. Lester has been manager of the club on the lake for the past 3 years. He was in his early 30s and had spent a couple of years in prison for breaking and entering in his 20s. I heard about him from Eric, who said he was a good guy who had done a lot of stupid things in his youth, but was now making the most of his second chance. From my limited interactions with him, it seemed that Lester was always polite when we went to the club for dinner. He managed the operation well and maintained friendly relations with everyone. If something was wrong, Lester made it right. From what I could see, he worked hard and smart. Obviously, he made a strong impression on my wife. I think she just couldn't resist the temptation of being with a guy who was 12 years younger. It must have done wonders for her ego. I wasn't sure how I was going to spend the next 2 days until Liz went to the lake. My sadness began to turn into anger, and I was afraid that I would lose it. The good news was that Hank's high school baseball team had several games that weekend, so I could attend them in the late afternoon. Liz would probably be on one of them, if not both. Being together in public would be much easier than being alone at home. I could work an extra hour or two every day without arousing much suspicion. If Liz had asked, I could always say that I'm working more now so I don't have to accumulate when I start going to the lake house in a couple of weeks. Getting into bed would be another challenge, but there was no way I was going to have sex with my cheating wife. I had no idea what Lester might have passed on to her, and I never wanted any extra seconds, no matter how much time had passed. It was a tough 2 days. Liz continued to try to make amends, and my excuses seemed unconvincing even to me. By Sunday evening, her frustration had turned to anger. "I hope you'll have your head out of your ass by the time I get back from the lake house," she hissed at me before pulling the covers over her side of the bed. Good night. On Monday, I got up early and left without even saying goodbye. Hank texted me on the way to school that morning. "Dad, I heard Mom crying this morning. Is she all right? It's not easy right now, Hank, but I'm sure she'll be fine." Fine. I love you, Dad. I love you, son. I put the phone on the table and also shed tears. How the hell did life ruin everything so quickly? Later, after lunch, Liz sent a message. "Thank you for your warm and loving congratulations today. You're such a jerk right now. Be careful, Liz. See you soon. Remember, try to make everything to your liking. That's the most important thing. As you say." Later that evening, Hank was hanging out with some friends and I looked through live feed from the lake house provided by my FBI buddy. Of course, in our living room, my loving wife and her lover were sitting on the sofa. Her head lay on his shoulder and he stroked her hair. "You don't think he knows, Lester?" "I don't understand how he could, baby. This has only happened since last Thanksgiving and only 8 times. We were too secretive. I don't see any way he could find out. I'm sure you're right, but he's been so strange since he came back last Thursday after the storm. He even refused me sex 3 times. Well, let me help compensate for the lack of attention," Lester grinned. "Lester, please. I love the way you rock my world in bed, but I really love my husband and our family. I'm not going to lose either. We both know it's just a fling. This is not love and never will be. From what I know, you're probably sleeping with at least 2 or 3 other married women." "You're right, Liz. I don't want to seem like anything more than just fun entertainment. However, I really care about you and don't want you to suffer. By the way, if you don't mind me asking, am I the first guy you slept with outside of marriage? I'm not judging, just curious." Liz was silent for a moment. Holy crap, I thought. I didn't believe it could get worse. There was another one about 5 years ago. He was the new administrator in our district, and he was damn attractive. I don't know what came over me, but for some reason he chose me and I didn't resist. We dated for about 6 months before I came to my senses. Mike Jensen, I thought to myself. That fucking slug was so smug around me, and now I know why. He slept with my wife. Remind me never to cross your path, Liz. By the way, to be honest, I'm hitting on Julie Mitchell and Kim Ferguson. I know you don't care because we're just having an affair, but I want you to know that none of us have any illnesses. I'm very careful. Nice to meet you, Guy. I knew about Julie. Kim is kind of a surprise since she comes across as such a pretty girl. Well, since we both know it's just like that, I'm tired of my man neglecting me all week. I switched to the hidden camera in the bedroom and watched for about 10 minutes. It was 9 minutes longer than I thought I could handle. I turned it off and went to the bathroom. On Tuesday, I texted Tracy and told her that Hank and I needed to talk to her. At noon, I shared the ugly truth with my children. It broke my heart, but I couldn't sugarcoat the situation or pretend that what their mom did wasn't true. I was sad and cried most of the time. They both cried too, but in the end, they said that they would try to understand and support each other. I told them I was going to give their mom a chance to confess everything to me on Wednesday night. If she did, we would have little chance of success. Obviously, they couldn't say a word of what they know if they talked to their mom. Tracy invited Hank to stay for the rest of the week since he was out of school and she was going to summer classes before returning home. I thought it was amazing of her to think about her little brother when her own heart was broken. When Liz walked through the door around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I was waiting for her in the office. I sat in my leather chair and sipped bourbon. Carefully, she slid across the room, dropping her purse and bag, intent on plopping down on my lap. I raised my hand to keep her at arm's length. She saw a very serious expression on my face. "What happened, Henry?" I pointed to the sofa. "Please sit down, Liz. Can I get you something to drink?" "No, I'm fine. Now please tell me, Henry, What the hell is wrong? Oh my God. Are the kids okay? The kids are fine, Liz. There's nothing to worry about. I noticed that she relaxed a little when she heard this good news. Unfortunately, things will most likely go downhill from here. Liz, I'm going to give you one chance and one chance only. Is there something you want to tell me, Liz? Or should I ask if there's anything you'd like to tell me, Liz? I expect complete honesty from you, my dear wife, and in return, I will be completely honest with you. Please think carefully before answering. Henry, what should I tell you? There's nothing wrong with the lake house. The children are fine. Just a few days ago, you and I had not had any disagreements for several months. Our sex life was usually very good. What do you want me to say? My hopes for any progress were crumbling by the second. Liz, I have been honest with you throughout our entire marriage. I have never lied, deceived you, or distorted the truth. I'm not perfect, and far from it. I don't always get it right, but being completely honest with you has always been one of my top priorities in our relationship. So, I ask one last time, Liz, is there anything you need to be honest with me about? That's when our marriage fell apart. Honestly, Henry, I have no idea what you are looking for or what you are talking about. Tears welled up in my eyes. I'm so terribly sad, Liz. I'm so sad that you despise me and our marriage so much. I don't think I'll ever know what I did to deserve your betrayal. I thought that we would always be together until we die. Now I know that this did not happen and will never happen. Liz, I know all about your lovers Ken Lester and Mike Jensen. Liz's face turned ashen gray in an instant. She opened her mouth, covering it with her hand. Oh no, 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 she said in a barely audible whisper. Then louder, no, Henry, please let me explain. Oh God, what have I done? Please, Henry, they mean nothing. Nothing, I only love you. Really, Liz? Mike Jensen was, as you put it, sexy as hell. I think that was the term you used. How? When? Henry. How did you hear all this? Simply, my unfaithful wife. Last week, I set up surveillance equipment after I found your stained swimsuit in a Ziploc bag that had blown out of a trash can during a storm. It also contained your ruined blouse, but I'm sure you can replace it so Lester can rip you off for another one. DNA testing was fairly straightforward for obvious reasons. Are you saying you spied on me and Lester? No, Liz. Everything was recorded. Now Liz was crying, unable to cope with my revelations. I did not console her and did not continue the description of her adventures. I just sat in silence, under the cover of pain that covered my heart like the darkest of nights. After a few minutes, she began to come to her senses. What can I do, Henry? How can I fix everything? Please tell me we can fix this. I cannot imagine my life without you, without our common home, without our world. Please, Henry, tell me there is a way out of this mess. There is a way, Liz, but it won't work, and we will never be together. You took away my trust, my love, my promise to be with you, and only you and your lovers callously broke them. I cherished you, Liz, and you spat on my love. You mocked me as a man and husband. How could you think that I would calmly watch my wife sleep with other men? Do you really have such a low opinion of me? I'm sorry you made your choice, Liz, but now I've made mine. The only way forward is to live separately. With that, I leaned over, picked up the manila envelope, and threw it on the sofa next to her. On the envelope was written, "Petition for divorce." No, Henry, please, not this. We must try to stay together for our sake and our children's sake. For your business and my teaching career. We can handle this. I can seek professional help. We can get professional advice. We are strong, Henry. We can weather this storm. Liz, let me be clear. I am divorcing you due to adultery. You can tear up these papers and throw them away if you want. But if you do, I will have my lawyer make another copy and give it to you at work, in the presence of your students and colleagues. Please don't do this to Hank. No matter how badly you think of me, please at least spare your son. Henry, you love me too much to do this, and I love you too much to leave a 24-year marriage. Please work with me to find a solution that will save our marriage and our family. Liz, you have no idea what true love is. You are confusing comfort and security with obligations. Love is an action, not a feeling. You love someone when you are faithful to them. Love is the renunciation of all others. To love means to care more about another person than about yourself. Tell me, Liz, how much did you love Tracy and Hank when you were with your lovers? How interested were you in saving our marriage? Your actions show who you really are, Liz. I will fight you, Henry. I will fight the divorce with all my might. I'm not going to give up on us. I began to tire of her complacency, and anger began to boil within me. Liz, you stupid bitch, you're starting to get on my nerves. Keep fighting if you want. Why don't you first call your kids and tell them what's going on? Try to convince them that you love me and our family. Do you know where Hank is now? He's at school with Tracy, probably crying his eyes out because his family is about to fall apart. What the hell have you done, Henry? What did you tell our children? I took a deep breath. The truth, Liz. I simply told them the truth, that you had 2 sexual encounters with 2 different men. One was about 5 years ago, and the other is ongoing. I was honest with them, Liz, which I can't say about you. I didn't advise them to hate you or give up their relationship with you. I told them that if you come home and honestly admit what you did, there is a small chance that our marriage will be strong. But today you showed your true colors, Liz. You've shown that you care more about yourself than about us. What happens next, Henry? I hope that we can divorce quietly, without scandal. I would love to leave you with nothing, but in modern courts, this is impossible. But I'm suing the school district and the Lake Club. They're probably not going anywhere, but I want to see some people held accountable. You were the main culprit, but there were others who ruined our marriage. You had accomplices, and I want them to pay. Financially, you'll probably do better than me, at least for the first few years. The custody issue is a contentious one, as Hank will be leaving for college before things are finalized. I'm not going to move. I don't care whether you agree or not. I'll stay in the master bedroom. You can move into the guest room or live with Lester. I don't care. But if you don't argue with me about this, Liz, if you try to play the victim, I will spread the recordings of the last 2 days everywhere, starting with your parents, then your siblings, friends, work colleagues. I am not a bad guy. I didn't sleep with everyone, and I didn't destroy your marriage. I won't try to cover for you. I could tell from the look on her face that she had finally realized what she had done. Deep pain was written on her face. I'm so sorry, Henry. I know you are very hurt by my actions, but can I ask you to hold me for a few moments? I feel so lost. I stood up and began to walk around the room, and then stopped. I'm sorry, Liz, but I'll never touch you again. Liz struggled with this for a while, but eventually it was inevitable. The divorce was decided about $5,050. Henry's lawyer, Tom, was right. You can cheat on your spouse, and the court will reward your infidelity and punish the victim. Luckily for Henry, the children were adults, so no child support was required. His company was thriving, so even with the compensation, his finances were fine. Liz wanted them to run a lake house together. Henry refused. They eventually agreed to place it in trust for Tracy and Hank. $5,050 for each of them. Perhaps someday Henry will return there to play with his grandchildren. He doubted. The lawsuits came to nothing, but angry club members fired Lester and ran him out of town. Husbands Julie Mitchell and Kim Ferguson received a small part of the tape in which Lester admits to sleeping with them. Both couples divorced. Henry and Liz sold the house. Both live in apartments on opposite ends of the city. Henry has met a girl whom he dates often, but is still shy about. There was a rumor about a divorce, and Liz doesn't have much of a reputation, so she's trying not to go out for now. Tracy and Hank see both their parents, although their relationship with their mother is still strained. Every time the tornado siren sounds, a sad smile appears on Henry's face, and he shrugs. Liz sits down and cries. Only a tornado could cause a real storm. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one. Listening to the next one. Listening